won't hear this on the radio.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. Is the price worth it? The price, we think the price is worth it.
Listen, I really think the media is...
Because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
Could you look me in my eyes and just lie to me?
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
They burn these fucking people alive because the message they want to convey to you is state power will always win.
You're listening to Below the Tension Podcast.
Open up your eyes, 'cause maybe it's our lies. I'm trying to make them break.
How's it going, everyone? Thank you for joining me on this Saturday edition of the podcast. Sadly enough, the title of this podcast will be News You Missed during the Nice attack and also during the Turkish coup. Now, if you have not heard, the coup was very short-lived. I don't even think it lasted 12 hours. But regardless, those two events dominated the news this past 3 or 4 days. So you might have missed a lot of news, and hopefully I can give some of that to you tonight. This podcast is syndicated by the voicesofliberty.com and also by the Sovereignty Network, a community of journalists and content creators reporting the revolution of the mind. You can find my show on their website, sovereigntynetwork.com/below-the-tension. I am also syndicated by timetofree.us, a community of anarchists. Comment on this podcast, visit their website, or tweet them at timetofreeus to learn more. Now, I have a great show lined up for you tonight. I have some U.S. news. The U.S. made over $100 billion in improper payments last year, so that's great. They take your money and piss it away, but we all knew that. Alabama police chief found guilty. And I will also cover some fashion news. Oh yeah, I'm going there. 9/11 report finally declassified. And of course, your bi-weekly Venezuela update. New news coming out of that country again. Now, as I alluded to before, the Nice attack, a guy drove a truck through a crowd at the promenade in Nice, killing what I last saw was 84 people. Now, this goes to the whole left versus right on gun control argument, hypothetical, straw man arguments, this, that, and the other about restricting things. You know, that people are killed more by blunt objects, fists, knives, and the joke has always been, well, you know, cars kill hundreds of thousands of people a year, and 84 in this case, in the U.S. Are you going to ban cars now because people use them to kill people, or people accidentally kill people with them? And this is a perfect example of that type of logic. And also, how did he get a pistol in France? Can people buy guns in France? No. Well, where did he get it? I thought guns were banned in France. I thought it was illegal to run over 84 people with a truck in France. But it still happened. Fancy that. It just goes to show, as most of you probably already know, the fancifulness of the concept of prohibition on pretty much anything. If there's a demand for it, people are going to find it. if they want it bad enough. Now, moving on to our top story, Congress releases secret 28 pages on alleged Saudi ties. A long classified U.S. report released Friday found that some of the 9/11 hijackers were in contact with and received supports from individuals likely connected to the Saudi government. While in the United States, some of the September 11th hijackers were in contact with and received support or assistance from individuals who may have been connected to the Saudi government, the report states. The pages also say that the inquiry obtaining information indicated the Saudi government officials in the United States may have other ties to Al-Qaeda or other terrorist groups. Now, to give you a quick history lesson, the Saudi government, or Saudi Arabia as a country, is where Wahhabism, the sect of Sunni Islam that all of this extremism comes from, was bred, cultivated, and exported out of Saudi Arabia. Wahhabism was born there, and the Saudi government and companies spent lots of money putting Wahhabist centers and mosques all around the world, exporting this very extreme interpretation of Sunni Islam. Now keep that in mind. The report notes it is possible that these kinds of connections could suggest incontrovertible evidence that there is support for these terrorists within the Saudi government. On the other hand, it is also possible that with further investigation of these allegations could reveal legitimate, innocent, or explainable associations. Yeah, sure. How do you say that in the same sentence? The report also criticized the lack of effective intelligence sharing in the U.S. government, highlighting an episode where the CIA memorandum, which discussed alleged financial connections between September 11th hijackers, Saudi government officials, and members of the Saudi royal family, was placed on an FBI case file and never forwarded to FBI headquarters until the memo was discovered by this inquiry. Yeah, let's just put that off. It got lost in the mail. It also says that there is a lack of emphasis on intelligence gathering directed at the Saudis at the time before and after the attacks. Quote, this is important. This is the most important thing to take from this whole 28 pages. Quote, prior to September 11th, the FBI did not focus their investigations on Saudi nationals in the United States due to Saudi Arabia's status as an American ally. Investigators purposely diverted their investigations away from Saudi Arabia, anything having to do with them, because they're a, quote, ally. What that says to me, what that looks like between the lines to me, is that they were told to back the fuck up off of this by somebody way higher than them. But the report also references instances where the Saudi government was uncooperative in the counterterrorism investigations. Quote, a number of FBI agents and CIA officers complained to the joint inquiry about the lack of Saudi cooperation in terrorist investigations both before and after September 11th, citing one New York FBI agent who said the Saudis were useless and obstructionist for years. Would you help somebody investigate yourself when you knew yourself was guilty? Interesting stuff. No wonder so many people wanted that released who saw it, and why so many people wanted it kept secret who saw it. U.S. made $136.7 billion in improper payments in 2015, and it's a growing problem. Washington Post. Uncle Sam sure can mess up a lot of money. Shit don't say. In fiscal year 2015, the federal government made $136.7 billion in improper payments, and the problem is worsening. Last year's total is more than $30 billion greater than 2013. Improper payments, payments that should not have been made or were made in incorrect amounts, have been estimated to total over $1 trillion government-wide since 2013. And keep in mind, the national debt is, I don't even know, 13 billion, I don't even know, 17, whatever billion. So it took the federal government mispaying since 2003 to reach $1 trillion. And that's only 1/20th or so of what we owe. The report does not say why the payments have increased so much so quickly, and it is not clear just how great the problem is. Awesome. Well, maybe it has to do with the fact that Pentagon lost track of however many billions of dollars. I can't remember off the top of my head. Just gone. Disappeared. No one knows where it is. And apparently no one cares. Now to some politics. Poll. Nearly half of Sanders supporters, millennial supporters, would vote third party. Ding, 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 ding. This is what a lot of people have predicted would happen if what was thought to happen would happen, which it did. Hillary won, he lost, and he has this huge chunk of enthusiastic supporters, like a lot of young people. What happens to them after this? Well, guess what? Nearly half of millennials supporting Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders are thinking about backing a third-party candidate, according to data by Yik Yak. 48% of respondents say they will vote for a third-party option, and the 39% said they would support Clinton, and 13% say they may support Donald Trump. The poll surveyed 2,000 self-identified Sanders supporters in mid-July. That is a very good news for Mr. Johnson. Or the Green Party, whichever. Like I said in last week's episode, I wouldn't care if it was the Communist Party of North Korea getting there up on stage with those other two hyenas. Anything to break down this two-party system is good in my view. Because, as I said last week, if you want to get this country more liberty or less government or all the way to full voluntary society, stateless society, it's not just going to happen overnight. There has to be steps. You have to get a large amount of the people to understand that philosophy. Now, getting Gary Johnson on national stage with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, I understand he's not the perfect libertarian, but you're killing two birds with one stone in a way. You're breaking down that mentality that it's one or the other, and he's going to be able to put training wheels on people. And that's what people get so mad at him for, is that he's not this super by-the-book libertarian. And obviously he deserves to be criticized for making unlibertarian statements. But if you think about it, he is a middle between normal voters. So it's kind of good in a way that he's not so extreme, so he can appeal and be that stepping stone, just like how Ron Paul was for a lot of people. He's obviously more hardcore, but you get the point. Anyways, continuing with domestic news, some NASA news, some UFO news, some tinfoil hat news. Is NASA trying to cover up a UFO sighting? Space conspiracy theorists are accusing NASA of cutting a live stream from the International Space Station as an unidentified object comes into view. In the clip, a bright object is slowly falling into view before the screen flashes, and there is a technical difficulty problem feed. The YouTube channel commented on its video, "This could well be a meteor or the like." What made it interesting was the camera cut off when the UFO seemed to stop. And I've seen the video. There's this bright gold ball looking thing, and you can see the horizon, the atmosphere of Earth, and then space. It slowly comes like straight down, straight towards what it looks like, coming straight towards Earth. And then as it seems to slow down right as it reaches the atmosphere, that's when it flickers, and then it puts up that we're having technical difficulties. It seemed like the feed was cut just as it was about to slow down and enter the atmosphere. And this was large, but I mean, in space, for the depth perception, it's hard to tell even which direction it was going. But anyways, look at it yourself. The link is in the description below. NASA spokesman Daniel Hoyt said that the live feed was not deliberately cut, and said that cameras mounted on the International Space Station are controlled automatically. Yeah, okay. The station, he says, regularly passes out of range of tracking and data relay satellites used to send and receive radio voice telemetry from the station. For video, whenever we lose signals from the camera, you will show the blue screen as you saw. This has got to be the biggest coincidence in history if what he says is true. I mean, just as this phenomenon is happening, space phenomenon, just as it starts to act weird, or it seems like just as somebody in Houston noticed that this was on this feed, people on social media aren't buying NASA's insistence that the feed was not deliberately cut. So that's interesting. Like I said, the links for all the articles I cover are in the description of the video or in the post. So check that out for yourself. Last bit of domestic news, and then we're on to some tech. I got some tech news, Venezuela update, and some foreign policy. Alabama police chief found guilty of federal assault excessive force charges. Now, I thought it was very important to highlight this because of everything that's going on. Northeastern Alabama police chief has been found guilty of charges of excessive force and assaulting a man who is being arrested. Stevenson Police Chief Daniel Gordon Winters was convicted Thursday. The 36-year-old was indicted in January on 2 counts of deprivation of civil rights under the color of law. Winters was found guilty of physically assaulting David Fumer in March of 2015 and failing to stop another officer from using unreasonable force. A friend of Winters, businessman Bobby Hicks, discovered his funeral home was being burglarized, so the two men went into the home and began beating the burglary suspect. Now, I would be pretty mad if I caught someone, burglarizing my place, but, there's a limit, and obviously he crossed that line. Now, on to my fashion news. Are you ready, guys? Fashion! I actually just saw Zoolander 2 the other day. That shit was hilarious. I guess it got bad reviews or whatever, but I was dying. Oh, man. Anyways, modeling agency behind Giselle Kate Moss signs its first ever plus-sized male model. And as we all know, there's this whole, women, you respect my size and this, that, and the other. That's fine, whatever. If you are big and like being big, and if you like big women, that's your thing. I don't care, But equality is equality, and this is good. With plus-size ladies like Ashley Graham dominating this fashion and modeling industry, it seems like body positivity is all the rage these days. But with women slowly seeing more and more diversity in their models, suddenly men are asking, where's our plus size? Yeah. Where's it at? Well, it seems the executives at IMG Models heard them. According to WWD, I don't know what that is, IMG has announced a big and tall division called Brawn. It's already signed its first model, Connecticut-born Zach Miko. Good for you, buddy. You keep eating those cheeseburgers and posing for that camera. All right. Let's see. What should I do? Okay. I'll finish up with tech news. We'll go ahead and do the Venezuela and foreign policy news. I love talking about Venezuela. It's just a perfect example of what people think they want and what actually comes about when they get it. Venezuela military had a big role in economic woes. You don't say. President Nicolas Maduro announced this week that the military will lead the battle against widespread food shortages, but overlooking one key fact. The armed forces have played a big role in the economic woes. I have criticized that in past episodes. If you want to catch up on those, YouTube below the attention, iTunes below the attention, Facebook below the attention, check it out, subscribe. I have criticized this from the beginning. When they first started having these real big problems, Maduro, who goes on to do this later, as I'll cover in this article, blaming outside forces or people trying to overthrow him. And so he started doing these military parades and shit. When your people are starving, there's no food in the country, there's no diapers, no flour, no sugar. You want to run military exercises? You fuckhead. Since Maduro took office in 2013, he has named a number of active and retired generals to run the economy. And you just put a general in charge of the food, which is your biggest problem right now. You idiot. You socialist idiot. None of these moves, however, can match the scope of Maduro's promotion this week of Defense Minister Vladimir Pinheiro to head what is called the Great Mission of Sovereign Supply. The Great Mission of Sovereign Supply for the homeland. The goal is to boost production and guarantee the smooth distribution of food in the face of what Maduro sees as an economic sabotage by his opponents. Yes, it's always someone else's fault. It's those guys. It's not the fact that a centrally planned economy is shit, especially by morons. On to some foreign policy, just one little tidbit tonight. Unable to stop Syria's war, the U.S. offers Russia a new partnership. About time. The United States finally, on Thursday, offered Russia a broad new military partnership in Syria, hoping the attraction of a unified campaign against ISIS and Al-Qaeda and the Russian commitment to ground Syria's bombers could end the 5-year civil war. If finalized, the deal could dramatically alter America's role in the conflict. Good. Because if you guys remember, it wasn't until Russia got involved that anything actually changed. Interesting. Maybe a military in a country that actually intends to do something about something, not just perpetuate the problem to suck out as much money as possible. Man, nah, I'm crazy. The U.S. is offering intelligence and targeted sharing and even joint bombing operations It is a pact Moscow has long waited for, but the Obama administration has resisted because Obama has a hard-on for getting Assad out of there. But wait, the irony is coming. Putin says he's looking at the tangible results. The proposal would put the United States alongside Syrian President Bashar Assad's chief international backer, despite years of American demands for him to leave power. Sweet, sweet irony. Russia would get what it has wanted since the beginning: leadership in an international anti-terrorism alliance. Let them spend their money and their bombs and their people. We've been doing it for too long. All right, finishing up with a couple of tech news. Beyond passwords, tech companies seek next generation security. Are we entering the post-password age? Typing in a password may be a thing of the past. According to a study from internet security firm Telesign, 69% of security professionals believe traditional passwords and usernames no longer provide sufficient security. Many of these tech insiders believe password-less futures are coming within the next decade. Quote, we're starting to see a real momentum towards companies adopting behavioral biometrics and two-factor authentication, Telesign's co-founder said. What is two-factor authentication? It's also known as two-step verification. It is already available to users who want extra security. It generally involves the company sending a unique, secure passcode to your cell phone. I happen to be enrolled in that in all that I can. However, this next one is kind of concerning. The other, behavioral biometrics, is a form of biometric security that differs from physical biometrics, such as fingerprints or iris scans, in that it involves a pattern derived from a person's specific behavior, such as a signature or typing recognition. Now, I don't know what's worse, a computer taking your thumbprint or a computer that knows your physical actions as a biometrics security. But as you all know, there is that whole conspiracy about biometrics as a whole, that governments and security agencies can scan a body, because you could put on a mask, you can wear sunglasses, you could do all these things, you could place something over your fingers, like in the movies, put a fake fingerprint on you, all that kind of stuff. But how your body is and how you move can also be a biometric factor. So there is concerns about that, about people willingly giving up their biometrics and that being stored in a government database somewhere. For what purpose? Nefarious, no doubt, if it's true. Zero waste grocers are coming to America. Alarmed about plastic piling up in our oceans and estimated that 1/3 of food goes to waste, a move is afoot to give shoppers the option of tackling both issues at their neighborhood grocery store. Already in play in Europe, the idea of zero waste grocery markets stocked with products free of packaging became a reality in Texas in 2011. It offers area-sourced produce and bulk items and lays claim to be the first package-free zero-waste grocery store in the U.S. The zero-waste concept is also making its debut in Denver. Cool concept. I am in huge favor of people using economics and free markets to generate real change, just like how you saw the organics, whether you believe in that or not, regardless, people demanded it, and now you can find an organic section in any grocery store in America. 10 years ago, unheard of. That's the power of the free market and supply and demand and true capitalism. On our last bit of info here, and this is very, very, very interesting to me, Stone Age discovery could rewrite human history. Scientists say a previously unknown group of Stone Age farmers may have introduced agriculture into South Asia, challenging earlier theories that attributed the spread of farming to a different population. Previous research held that a single group of hunter-gatherers developed agriculture in the Middle East some 10,000 years ago and then migrated to Europe, Asia, and Africa, where they gradually replaced or mixed with the local population. But scientists who analyzed ancient human remains found in the Zagros Mountains of present-day Iran say they belonged to a completely separate people who appeared to have taken up farming around the same time as their cousins further west in Turkey. Scientists in Europe, United States, and Iran who examined the DNA of 9,000 to 10,000-year-old bone fragments discovered in a cave near Islamabad found they belonged to a man with black hair, brown eyes, and dark skin. Intriguingly, the man's diet included cereals, a sign that they had learned to cultivate crops. So that singularity theory is going by the wayside. That is awesome news. But at the same time, in Turkey, you have Göbekli Tepe, which they estimate to be more than 10,000 years old, a giant complex of circles, some type of religious center, they think, with giant monoliths 14 feet high, T-shapes. And, this thing was a massive construction process. And this was at a time when humans were supposed to be hunter-gatherers. How did you gather hundreds, if not thousands of people in an area and feed them while they worked on this? On hunting and gathering. So, pretty interesting stuff. Just like with anything else, we're just guessing. So, there you go. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Like I said before, you can catch me on YouTube, Below the Tension. Subscribe, please. iTunes, subscribe as well, Below the Tension. Like me on Facebook, Below the Tension, or you can tweet me directly at Slav Libertarian on Twitter. Tell me you love me, tell me you hate me, tell me the show sucks or you love it. I'll respond. I'm not afraid. Anyways, you guys have a great rest of your weekend and have a nice day.